Good evening. Welcome to the November 11th, 2024 Troy City Council meeting. Please rise for our invocation and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for this day and for the blessings you've given each and every one of us here in the city of Troy. We especially are grateful for the veterans that we support and honor today on Veterans Day, and we ask that you continue to look over all of them who have served and all who will serve in the future. Lord, please be with us as we work through the business of the city this evening, as we come together as a community representing all of our city as one, each bringing different viewpoints and experiences to the table. Please be with our residents in attendance tonight or watching from home. Please be with all of our city employees who have worked so hard to make sure this city is as wonderful as it is. Lord, as the weather turns colder, please be mindful and caring to those who are in need of shelter and in need of heat, and recognize that we all recognize how grateful we are for what you've given us here in this community to be warm at times and to have so much. Lord, please be with our first responders as they keep our city safe and keep our city the jewel that it is. We ask that you continue to bless all of us this evening. In his name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll call the November 11th, 2024 Troy City Council meeting to order, and I'll ask for the roll call from Ms. Stewart.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krianga?
Here.
Councilmember Chanda?
Here.
Councilmember Gunn?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. We have no certificates of recognition and special presentations, no carryover items, no public hearings. I don't see that anyone has signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, so there'll be no need for reply. No postponed items, so we move on to regular business. I-1 is board and committee appointments. First up are mayoral appointments. I'll move that the mayor and the Troy City Council hereby appoints the following nominated persons to serve on the boards and committees as indicated. So Global Troy Advisory Committee, Ani Fakori, Saida Mohideen, Sunil Sekri for the terms expiring October 30th, 2027.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain-Krianga, that we approve the appointments of Ani Fakori, Saida Mohideen, and Sunil Sekri to the Global Troy Advisory Committee for the terms expiring October 30th, 2027. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Stewart.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain-Krianga?
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. I thank those three individuals for continuing to serve on our Global Troy Advisory Committee. There are no city council appointments this evening. I-2 is board and committee nominations. I have no mayoral nominations this evening, and I do not believe there are any city council nominations. There is no closed session requested in I-3, so we move on to I-4, bid waiver golf cart lease, and that'll be introduced by Brian Gould, our recreation director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is for approval to lease 170 2025 Tempo Gen 2 golf carts from Club Car utilizing the True National account pricing for an estimate cost of $4,842 per cart, including trade-in and delivery. Approval is also requested to utilize DLL Finance LLC for the financing of the carts based on a fair market value lease at an estimated rate of 5.99%, with total payments over the life of the lease of approximately $418,761. Payments will be made from the revenue generated at the golf course. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Councilmember Chamberlain-Krianga.
Thank you, Mayor. Little known fact, I actually worked at golf courses, so I actually know the EasyGo brand. I know some of these. That was when I was in high school and college. I wanted to ask, so the older EasyGos, I read the agenda item, but it wasn't clear what happens to those. Are those recycled?
So those get traded in. They're part of the cost. The $4,842 includes a trade-in of the carts we have.
Some of the money you get back for
Right.
those. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
That was my question too. Yeah, but
Very good.
got it. Thanks. Yeah.
Someone like to move the item? Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga.
I'll move I-4 bid waiver, a golf cart lease as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga, supported by Councilmember Chanda, that we approve I-4 bid waiver golf cart lease as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Stewart.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krianga.
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda.
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. That concludes regular business this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Hamilton, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Stewart.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krianga.
Yes.
Councilmember Chanda.
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes,
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
motion carries. If you were here for an item on the consent agenda, all items have been approved. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items. I do have K1, announcement of a public hearing. On November 25th, 2024, we'll have the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG 2025 funds. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. We do have a handful of people signed up this evening. As a reminder, in our council rules, you have 3 minutes. So you're speaking to us as a body, and it's not a back and forth question and answer. When the light turns yellow, the clock's down to 1 minute. Please be mindful of that, and when it turns red, that means your time is up. So with that said, I'll call on first Noah Savage.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good evening, council members and Mayor Baker. I am Noah Savage. This is the first time I've ever spoken before you guys, so it's a great honor. Thank you very much for letting me speak up here. As an electric car owner, I do have to drive a long distance for fast car charging. There are 2 charging locations that are specific to Teslas. We have one over in Auburn Hills and one over in Detroit. I'm curious if there are any plans in the works to install an electric car charger in the city. For example, at a place like the Troy Community Center. Tesla superchargers go for about $43,000 per individual unit of a charger, and they provide the fastest charger of any kind of electric vehicle available. For some quick metrics for basic information, the University of Wisconsin-Madison notes that a Tesla supercharger can bring about a 5% increase in foot retail traffic to the area that the charger is installed in. And the network is also 100% powered by renewables with a 99.97% uptime. And ChatGPT, a popular artificial intelligence tool, has given me a rough estimate for how much a project like this would cost. It's a totally rough estimate. I'm sure it might not be similar in that number, but it's in the range of between $400,000 and $700,000 for about 8 of these chargers to be installed in a location like the Troy Community Center, for example, including labor and materials and such. If you have any questions, please ask. I'd love to discuss this further. There's a lot of electric car owners in the city who would love to know if there potentially may be any plans for a car charger. Thank you very much. That's all. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next up is Cheryl Kappas.
Hello, City Council. We've tried appealing to your empathy and human decency surrounding the problems with the construction project currently in progress on Eckford Drive. We've tried warning you of the issues that would arise from this build. All of this fell on what I feel deaf ears. I'll now be speaking impartially about what activity is going on, with dates surrounding the waste of city services that has already happened due to the gross negligence of this builder. All of these are easily verifiable with city services, utility companies, or myself through photographic evidence. On September 25th, a subcontractor was turning into the lot and severely damaged the electrical pole to the point of needing replacement by DTE. This knocked out the power to half the street. Troy PD closed down the street as a result, cutting off access, which directly impacted Leonard Elementary, as buses could not use the street to drop off children at their Eckford bus stop. The buses were forced to reroute and drop off at a different location. On October 28th, they caused an issue with Consumers Energy by hitting a gas line, causing Troy Fire Department to have to come out and investigate for gas leaks in my home. Their rationale for hitting the gas line was, "We thought it was abandoned." Similarly to the power line incident, the road was closed and buses had to be rerouted for the second time in 4 weeks. On October 30th, just 2 days later, after they had already been advised by city engineers not to use a tamper on that street, they again used it. The shocks from the tamper being used after being explicitly told not to caused my entire house to shake down to the glass in my cupboards. The repeated interruptions by city services due to their negligence is negatively impacting my job as I work from home in a production-based environment. I know that my experience is irrelevant under the current ordinance, but I ask City Council to exercise their power to do something to prevent this in the future. Thank you.
Next up is Dale Murish.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I want to thank Emily Dumas for the tour of the library she and Philip Quick gave me some weeks ago. Since then, I've thought about the library off and on. One idea I had is for a library addition instead of remodeling and expanding the building for $35 million or new construction for $39 million. This was in the info packet that they gave us. You could use the floor space for staff offices on the main floor and have 6 meeting rooms on the second floor, 2 of the highest need areas. Friends of the Troy Library could move to the new basement and expand their space. It could provide significant additional floor space for $16 million estimate. If less space than 36,000 square feet is needed, 2 of the 6 meeting rooms could be deleted, saving $5.3 million. Existing library offices could be converted to provide incremental space for library contents or for quiet areas for library patrons. I envisioned a 2-story building between the existing building and the Civic Center. Building an addition could be done without disrupting current library operations, and offices could be moved when the new space became available. Best of all, it could be done for less than half the cost of other options. Please consider this and provide a third option for a library addition. Part of it could be funded from the city's current budget, reducing the amount borrowed to be paid back from a special capital expense millage. Another thought I had was the $400 to $500 per square foot cost for a new building. That might be accurate for new government buildings, but Troy already owns the land and could also get quotes from new home builders in the area. My proposal is simpler than most houses except for the elevator. To solicit bids, there's a website that could be used in addition to the local builders known to the Planning Commission. I encourage the council to consider a $16 million addition rather than $39 million for new construction, which would cause some further expense for making the old library suitable for something else. The $35 million remodeling expense of the existing 50,000 square foot library includes increasing the space, the size to make it 75,000 square feet, bringing it up to the latest fire codes, ADA accessibility, et cetera. Please do not ask the voters for 75,000 square foot remodel and expand, or 39,990,000 square foot new construction, when 86,000 square foot total would meet functional requirements. Thank you.
That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Now's an opportunity for City Council or City Administration to respond and reply. Anyone? I guess I will, if no one else will, but there's a couple different things to discuss there. I'll start with Noah. EV chargers, something we talk a lot about from the council table. We talk a lot about in a lot of different subcommittees as well. There are currently no plans for the city to add superchargers onto publicly owned land. There's certainly a lot of privately owned parcels where people are doing it, and we're watching the market shift a lot towards that. One of the issues we face here is, it sounds like a great idea until you realize you need to have the infrastructure and the power supply to feed it. So it's not just the cost of adding the charger, it can be a huge expense. So it's something we're always looking at. We've been involved with state government, federal government, if there's any grants available. But I know that a lot of private property owners are trying to fill some of that void, and Troy happens to be one of the, I think it's actually has the most EV chargers in Oakland County on private sector land, but we don't currently have any on public land, but it's something we're talking about. Thanks for the information, Dale, and the library thoughts. I'm sure that conversation will continue. Look into what you said, and I know you'll be part of those conversations. Lots to digest. We're still digesting information up here, and we're still waiting for some information as well. So things will change and evolve, but we'll look at all those things. I did want to talk a little bit about what Ms. Kappas has brought forward, especially in relation to what Mr. Kappas brought at our last meeting. And part of it's a question for administration, because I'm not, I've sat at this table for many years now and praised Mondrian for some of their development projects, because they've done a lot of development projects in our city, and I've always held them to in pretty high regard, thinking their standards were pretty high at how things were going. And I just want to make sure that we are adequately monitoring certain situations, and I don't know the process. That's why I'm kind of asking, I guess, now to ensure that they're following rules, number one, and that they're not creating problems. Mistakes happen, accidents happen, and that's a part of anything that happens. But I know that Mondrian owns a lot of property throughout our city, and there's a lot of ongoing development projects, and certainly ones in the future. And I just want to make sure we're properly in monitoring that, and any complaints are coming through, we're handling. And I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
No, I was taking notes. I'll look into it, and of course with the code enforcement, and see, I wrote down, so it was October 30th, and prior to that, there was some other issues with hitting the gas line and the power line. So I'll look into that, and I'll get something back to council. And I have some business cards I can make sure I touch base with that resident too.
Okay, I appreciate that. We also received, I hesitate to go here, but one of the questions that came up at the last meeting was about our ordinance relating to development times. And I not to put anybody on the spot, but I'm interested in exploring even pushing back that Saturday start time to 8 o'clock as opposed to 7 o'clock in the morning. It would be an ordinance change. I certainly never want to do anything to stop any development or cool any development projects, but it doesn't seem, I don't understand why we have the same start time for a Saturday morning that we do a Monday through Friday. And I know that Mr. Kappas, last time when he spoke, he is one resident dealing one thing, but there are development projects throughout our city that there's active sites. And I just didn't know what council's thoughts were. I know we all got that same thought. I'm not asking you again if you to put anybody on the spot now, but maybe we can think about checking in a little further with city management to see what an ordinance change would look like, whether or not it could be appropriate to do that here in the city. I know that's only 1 hour extra, but I am a little concerned about a 7 o'clock start on a Saturday morning. And I love construction and I love development. I think it's a great thing. But I also recognize that with a city that's anywhere from 90 to 98.6% built out, that means there's going to be development projects next to existing homeowners at all times at this point. So, Councilmember Hamilton?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in exploring that. I'm curious what other communities similar to us do as well. If we're within the norm, if we're kind of on the edge. I don't really know what the hours are in other communities, so let's explore that. I think it's worth talking about.
I'm curious. I also, at the end of the day, it's not that I don't care, but I care what our residents are feeling too. So I'm curious just to see how we might match up. But even if we have something different that we could make better, I'm open to that as well, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
I don't want that to hold us back.
Right, and I think like pros and cons, if you delay that hour, then maybe the project has to last longer. So, there's give and take, but at the same time, I'd rather a little longer, a little later. That doesn't affect sleep or wake up my daughter would be nice. So, right.
My guess is that there'll be some that will say, yes, that's what's going to happen, but I'm not sure I buy it.
That's why I want to see what other
opinion,
communities do. So, yeah.
Councilmember Gunn?
I agree with, looking at the start time, but I also had brought up previously, what procedure, what policy do we have in place once these builders have been approved to ensure what they promised us, that they're being followed? We talked about that, and if there was any sort of information that could be provided, because some of our residents have brought up, there was agreements made, and then they weren't being followed by the builder. So,
City Attorney Bloom, you look like you either do or don't want to say something, which means you probably should.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. No, just, a couple things. First of all, certainly we can look at, the ordinances, Chapter 88, that's our nuisance ordinance. I know that the latest revision was 1990, so it's been in place since at least 1990. I believe that it was actually in place before then. I believe that that was not one of the provisions that was changed when the ordinance was last amended in 1990. As far as making sure of what, that they're compliant with the ordinances, I mean, we do have inspectors that are on site, and they are making sure that that there is compliance. There are checks and balances that are followed up.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember having or hearing of similar challenges with the contractors. So you have a builder, but they hire contractors to do things, and sometimes that's where things fall through. I believe it was the Long Lake development. I forget the name, but it was next to Edna's neighborhood where she lives. They had a green slime issue, and same things, the noise and things technically not starting early, and remember working with the residents to report it. And that's where I learned about the 7 a.m. start time, including Saturday, and I was shocked. I was shocked by 7 a.m. And I think the big difference and why I'd be open to exploring changing the ordinance is when the ordinance was developed, Troy was a very different city. Whereas today, as you said, Mayor, we're mostly built up. So whereas the ordinance was passed at a time where you didn't have such dense development, today you have to be building next to some other subdivision that will be impacted. So I would be very open to looking into that. Again, not to prevent development and homes going up that we need, but as a way to protect residents. So yeah, let's look into it.
Anyone else? Councilmember Hamilton?
And I will also say, when something like what resident described and power lines damaged, gas lines hit, I'm curious what compensation the developer has to do to make it right. They're causing residents a disturbance, they're causing the street a disturbance. I'm curious what the process is on that, and if we can we have the ability to up that, because to shut down the entire street because of a mistake is a big impact. So I'm curious what the penalty is for that, and I feel there should be one. Of course, it may be superseded by state law. I don't know. We run into that a lot as a city council, but I think we have consensus on council to explore that further too, because this isn't the first time in our almost decade on council we've heard lots of these type of complaints.
Fair. Yeah. And I know some things are private actions, right? When there's
Right.
If you want to clarify, City Attorney Bloom.
Yeah, the utility companies, they will actually go after a person who causes them to, some damage. They will actually, they're pretty aggressive in pursuing recovery of the damages that they have incurred. So the utility companies would be doing that. As far as the city's costs and things, it's possible that there is an avenue to recoup any of the costs, the out-of-pocket costs. We'd have to look into that further.
Councilmember Chanda?
Yeah, and the same token, I was also curious to know if the neighbors are not happy with the builder, like they think something is violated, and they don't have the time to come here and talk to us. Is there a formal process where they can reach out to city and ask us to investigate, and what's our process to do that?
If they're doing construction before a lot of times, they can call the police department, we'll send somebody out. If it's something on site and there's an issue, or they perceive there's an issue, you can call us, the building department. We have code enforcement, we have inspectors to go out. Like Lori said, they do go out there, but they're not out there 24/7, so the eyes and ears around the neighborhood to give us a call, so we're able to react to what's going on and send somebody out.
And just also to add to that, there is a portal for, citizens to, so we encourage people to also to utilize the portal.
Like a real time?
Right, the real time, you're going to have to call the police department.
Or even the portal is sort of real time. It is not exactly same day, but.
Okay. Fast, yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick.
we were talking about the impact on residents. I do remember at one point construction even affecting people who were visiting here and staying in one of our hotels. We heard from a number of people, and it was technically the construction that was going on next door was within ordinance. So it really may be time to reevaluate that ordinance and look at start times. It was a weekend, and they were very frustrated at a 7 a.m. wake up due to construction noise, and were surprised by it. So when I think about it, it isn't just the residents butting up to new construction. It can be happening even in a building that's maybe being refashioned, or a new parking lot, or what have you. I'm just remembering that. Do you remember that too?
Yeah.
Brought to mind. So obviously I would be, for multiple reasons, be willing to look at the ordinance.
Councilmember Gunn.
To add on to that, is there anything in the ordinance in relations to landscape start time?
Must be same nuisance. Is that part of the nuisance? I mean, people are complaining on Nextdoor right now about stuff, but
Just numerous residents say, hey, why do we have people out here at 6:30, 7 o'clock cutting the grass?
And I was trying to look through the ordinance real quickly. I mean, I do know that is a concern that we have, and there are, the lawn maintenance companies are usually out there fairly early, but I think we've tried to enforce the 7 a.m. Start time for those types of companies as well.
right. We're working on it. We'll look at some of these things, and I have every bit of good faith that we'll get some good information back and continue to look down this. So thank you for bringing it to us, as awful as it can be for you. So I appreciate it. Next up are council referrals. We don't have any council referrals this evening submitted, so we move on to reports. Anyone like to comment on any of the reports? Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out O2A, the Troy Nature Society Annual Report and Financial Statements. And it's a nice report that does address things such as volunteer hours and foot traffic. Obviously, it doesn't capture all of it because there are a lot of people who walk the trails outside of business hours, so all of that is not fully captured. But it definitely shows how well utilized the facility is. And it also shows, as far as the budget, the expenses went down from last year, and also the revenue went up, which is a good thing. So that's always a good thing to see for the Nature Center. And I know that they're always looking at programming and ways to continue to be a good resource and a good, of good value to our community. So,
Thank you. Anyone else on the reports? Some nice letters of appreciation in there as well. Always appreciate seeing those. All right, council comments. Councilmember Gunn.
Well, I just want to thank the city of Troy, everybody who were behind putting the Veterans Day event together this morning. Cindy, I know a lot of city staff was here. Typically, a lot of people would have been off today. So I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work and effort, thanking the veterans.
Thank you. Additional council comments. Councilmember Chanda.
Yeah, I also want to add to that. I mean, it was a wonderful event. My first year, I think I'm attending that, so it was so nice to see people attending. I also attended a event in the library, Teen Advisory Board. Met about 15 or 20 high school kids that asked me all kinds of questions about city government. So I think maybe some of my colleagues also attended that, but that was very nice. So this is just to bring up that library does a lot of things other than just lending out books. So we have a set of next generation kids that are really engaged in local government. Some of them asked questions that I never encountered in my last 1 year of campaigning. But happy to say the people are engaged, and encourage people to attend that also. So it was a wonderful experience.
That's great. Additional comments? Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Are you going to mention Citizens Academy?
You can if you want.
Yeah.
I've got a few things.
Okay. Just tonight before the meeting, we had an opportunity to give diplomas out to a group of citizens. I forget the number.
I think there were 20 or 22 total, but not all of them.
20-some citizens who participated in our Citizens Academy, and we thanked them in person. I wanted to thank them on the record tonight for their participation. If you're not familiar, the Citizens Academy is an amazing opportunity to take a peek behind the curtain of what it takes to run a city. And this is really an amazing city, an amazing staff, public servants that are very dedicated, and to have a chance to meet with each department head and visit the departments, the fire department, police department, DPW, and you know, they were even saying the finance people made it interesting. So all of them were very, very pleased with their experience and expressed appreciation to the staff, who I know that's a lot of time. It takes a lot of time for staff and the folks that coordinate that to help people go through. But it's a great opportunity to learn more and get involved and see what it takes, you know, to keep a city like this that, what is like 90,000, you know, 24/7, add businesses and whatnot. It's what, up to 130,000 people that we keep safe, that we ensure have quality of life, that we ensure can turn on their water and flush their toilets and have their streets plowed, and what that involves and the people who do it. So many, many congratulations to that team of people. And, you know, members of the public, if you can kind of keep your eyes peeled for social media, it is a huge endeavor, so it's not something we do constantly, but watch for opportunities, and I would encourage anyone who sees that to consider taking part. And again, many, many thanks to staff. I believe it was Courtney, Dylan, and Kayla who coordinated it this time around. And it's no small endeavor, but as Courtney put it, we have now influencers who have information that can help guard against misinformation. And to that end, thinking back on comments earlier, when we are throwing around ideas like about costs for the library and things like that, I would just really like to caution all of us to be careful that we are using well-researched and well-founded numbers in our dialogue. When we're looking at public buildings and the costs that are involved to renovating or doing new, you know, in my mind, maybe I can extrapolate what building a house costs and take it over to that. There's a reason we're following a very, very thorough process for whether it's the library or the aquatic center or renovating at the community center when we've had to do a new roof. We use a very well-trained group of people in the staff that use purchasing process, a vetting process of architects that can really help us understand very accurate numbers. And I would just really caution that none of us get in a habit of, we heard a number one time 10 years ago, maybe we use that, extrapolate that to have the dialogue. Let's make sure we all wait, get the facts that are properly vetted and brought to us before we start having a dialogue that could take us off track unnecessarily. We have a very smart community. We have a very smart staff. There are folks out there that can really guide us and bring us the best numbers that we should be considering. And as I hear some start to get thrown out, I've seen this movie before, where numbers take a toehold, and next thing you know, you're seeing them on Nextdoor or whatever, and they're not even accurate. So they may be high, they may be low, but inaccurate information. Our city does not deserve to function from a place of guessing. We have excellent people doing outstanding work, and let's really try to work together. And Mr. Murish, I appreciate your brainstorming and your thinking on that, and I know you'll be a very good involved person in that process, and I'm glad you're engaged. I really appreciate you doing so. Thank you.
Additional council comments? Councilmember Brooks?
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out to our city clerk's office. I mean, for running an really high turnout election. To our city clerk, not county clerk, city clerk Eileen Dixon and Cheryl Stewart and all of you and all of our volunteers. I mean, this was a pretty big election, pretty contentious, I would say. And with all the different ways to vote, with, in person, early in person, and, the mail-in ballots, that's a lot to really manage. So you guys did a great job, and I thank you for continuing to keep our elections safe and secure and all the hard work that you guys do.
Then it's my understanding the city clerk Dixon will be back next meeting and she'll give a full report, right?
We are still awaiting canvas, so I know City Clerk Dixon will provide a very thorough report at the next meeting. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to give a shout out. I know that Councilmember Brooks, who serves on the Troy Nature Society, we thank you for your service. And also, they had their major fundraiser on Friday, their Nature Uncorked, and had a chance to stop by. And again, this is a group of people, along with our Troy Historic Society as well. Just many of them volunteers, others who are working in this nonprofit tirelessly, being willing to come into schools, running summer camps. I mean, it is unbelievable what many of these people give to our community, to our children. My son had this transformative camp this summer with a volunteer who works there, a former teacher in the school district. So again, I cannot thank them enough for all that they do in our community. Again, and thank you to our veterans. Some of us were trying to wear red, white, and blue and just celebrate the colors of our country. And I remember my grandfather who served in the Pacific in World War II, and many family members and loved ones. And I would just encourage everyone, if you haven't already, text the veterans in your life and thank them. Thank them for their service. Remember them today. I've been trying my best to send all those messages. The last thing and Mayor, you may mention this, but a really important thing. This Saturday, 9 a.m., we have city manager interviews. This is, bar none, the most important thing that we do as a council. We select a city manager who is in charge of running our city. So I encourage folks, if you care about this city, the Citizens Academy, come 9 a.m. on Saturday, be in those interviews, listen, share your input. We want to hear from you. So please, I hope that you'll take part in the process.
Thank you. That was it, right? Anyone else? We're good? Okay. The good thing about going last is most things get covered, so that was really good. I just wanted to add a couple short, quick things about Veterans Day especially. I am always pleased to see the residents that come out to our Memorial Day ceremony and our Veterans Day ceremony, or one or the other, and of course all the employees that were there today, many of whom served and are veterans themselves, so it was especially nice to have them there with us. I also, for what it's worth, it was really nice. All of council was there this morning, and I think that says a lot about everyone's commitment to supporting our veterans and the care that we all feel for everybody. So that made me very happy too. I just wanted to add that about Veterans Day. If you were watching Channel 4 News earlier, WDIV Channel 4 did their In Your Neighborhood Troy series, or their In Your Neighborhood series this week. Today was Troy, and they were broadcasting live from our pavilion, and they were freezing out there in the cold wind, but some of us were too. But I recorded it so I can look back later. I don't know what will be on their website, but there was they did some great out in our community pieces throughout a couple of the news broadcasts, and highlighting some of what's great about Troy. And it really made me happy to see that and to know that it was happening. And some of the visuals they were doing from the pavilion with drone footage and around the Civic Center, I'll try to find some of just the pictures alone. It was really wonderful. So I'm really thankful that they chose to do that, and I'm grateful that Troy's getting highlighted in such a good way. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out that Megan is a high school student who was shadowing me today, and today was a busy day. She's got here, I think, 10:40 this morning before Veterans Day, and here you're getting a short meeting, Megan, so you're lucky because our last meeting went a little bit later than this, but it's fun to have a high school student follow along and kind of learn and ask a lot of good questions and get to meet some people, and she has to write a report on this, so we're all a little bit scared of what she's going to write. No, I'm just kidding. But Megan, thank you for being here today with us. And I also want to thank Cindy Stewart, who you shadowed a little bit of some of the time too, because I got busy doing some other stuff as well. But anyway, I think that's it for comments tonight. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Mayor, did you want to remind everybody about the meet and greet?
Yes, I actually did. I wrote it down, and then I just looked at it as I said, all right. So along with the city manager interviews that start 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, which will be in our council boardroom, you're welcome to attend in person or at least watch on YouTube, and there'll be a method to get us information if you would like to share your thoughts. The candidates or the city, I guess, is hosting a meet and greet for the 3 candidates, the 3 finalists, and that's 4:30 on Friday at the community center.
Room 303.
Room 303, so you have an opportunity to meet the 3 finalists for the city manager role. And again, there'll be opportunity to provide comment cards so we can hear your feedback, but it's a good opportunity. And I think it's 4:30 to 5:30, it's an hour?
Yes.
That's right, so that's another good opportunity as well. Okay, thank you, City Attorney Bloom. All right, no one has signed up for public comment for items on or not on the agenda for members of the public outside of Troy, and we do not have a closed session this evening, so with that, we are adjourned.